Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ukraine says it recaptured 4 villages in the eastern Donetsk region after President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed Saturday Ukraine's long-awaited counteroffensive has begun.
It is important that Russia always feels it. They do not have much time left, in my opinion. Counter-offensive and defensive actions are taking place in Ukraine. At what stage, I will not say in detail.
Zelensky also said the International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into last week's Kakhovka Dam breach, which triggered an environmental disaster and killed at least 14 people. Federal and local law enforcement agencies say they've stepped up security and are monitoring online threats from far-right supporters of Donald Trump ahead of his appearance at a Miami federal court Tuesday. Trump is facing criminal charges for taking classified documents to his Mar-a-Lago estate when he exited the White House. At Georgia's Republican State Convention over the weekend, Arizona's defeated gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake said she and 75 million others would defend Trump, adding, quote, "Most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA. Trump, who also spoke at the Georgia convention, said he's still running for the 2024 presidency as he lashed out at the Biden administration.
Now the Marxist left is once again using the same corrupt DOJ and the same corrupt FBI and the Attorney General and the local district attorneys to interfere in our elections at a level that our country and few countries have ever seen before. They're cheating, they're crooked, they're corrupt. These criminals cannot be rewarded. They must be defeated. You have to defeat them.
On Friday, the Justice Department unsealed the indictment against Trump containing 37 felony counts, including obstruction of justice and violations of the Espionage Act. Photographs released by the U.S. District Court show towering stacks of document boxes piled up in various parts of Trump's Florida resort, including a ballroom stage and a bathroom. We'll have more on this story after headlines with the nation's Ellie Mistel. In Sudan, intense airstrikes and artillery fire rattled the capital Khartoum Sunday as fighting between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces resumed following a 24-hour ceasefire. Witnesses said at least 17 civilians were killed across the capital region. There are reports of intense fighting in several other parts of Sudan, including Darfur. On Friday, Sudan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared Volker Perthes, the UN envoy for Sudan, persona non grata, after Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan accused him of inflaming the conflict in Sudan. Perthes defended the UN's work and said the conflict could only be blamed on, quote, the 2 generals at war, unquote. In South Sudan, at least 20 people were killed, 50 others injured, after fighting erupted in a camp for displaced people in Upper Nile State. The camp is home to about 50,000 people who began arriving when the civil war in South Sudan broke out a decade ago. Back in the United States, the city of New Haven, Connecticut, has reached an historic $45 million settlement with Randy Cox, a black man left paralyzed after he was handcuffed and placed in the back of a police van without a seatbelt. After the van made an abrupt stop, Cox slid headfirst into a metal partition, seriously injuring his neck and spine. Officers then ignored his pleas for help. 5 officers have pleaded not guilty to criminal charges, including second-degree reckless endangerment. In Philadelphia, an elevated highway collapsed Sunday following a crash and oil tanker truck fire on Interstate 95. No deaths or injuries are reported. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro said it could take months to repair the major East Coast artery I-95 in both directions. New York City officials have announced a new minimum wage for food app delivery workers of nearly $18 an hour before tips. Delivery workers contracted by companies like Uber and DoorDash currently make just $11 an hour. This is Lisha Walpa of the Workers' Justice Project, which organizes the immigrant-led group Los Deliveristas Unidos.
We can finally say that New York City's more than 60,000 app delivery workers who are essential to our city will soon be guaranteed a minimum pay. New York City is delivering justice for deliveristas.
Critics say the increase is still a sub-minimum wage once expenses are factored in, and blasted New York City for delaying the pay rise. App companies raked in record profits during the pandemic. In Colombia, 4 indigenous children were found alive in the Amazon 40 days after their plane crashed in the rainforest in early May. The siblings ranged in age from 11 months to 13 years old, survived eating plants and seeds they'd been taught were edible, like cassava. The search and rescue efforts were largely led by indigenous community members who guided Colombian troops through the region. In more news from Colombia, the National Liberation Army, or ELN, the country's largest remaining guerrilla group, and Colombian officials have signed a ceasefire agreement after months of negotiation. This is Colombian President Gustavo Petro, who's vowed to bring total peace to Colombia.
Que este firma de estos acuerdos parciales hoy
Today, the signing of these partial agreements brings you to a ceasefire, to a point that you had never experienced in the peace talks, to a ceasefire that follows with a promise that on May 25th, on May 2025, the decades-long war between the ELN guerrilla and the state of Colombia will definitively cease.
At least 25 people in Pakistan were killed by torrential rains in country's northwest, which caused houses to collapse and trees to be uprooted. Meanwhile, authorities have put in place emergency measures as a severe and intense cyclone approaches Pakistan and India. In Somalia, over 20 people, most of them children and teens, were killed Friday in a southern town after an unexploded mortar shell detonated near where the victims were playing. More than 50 people were injured in the blast. Another 6 were killed Saturday during a 6-hour siege of a beachside hotel by the armed group Al-Shabaab in the capital, Mogadishu. The media tycoon, billionaire, and 4-time Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has died at the age of 86. Berlusconi was first elected Prime Minister in 1994, leveraging his unrivaled influence over public opinion in Italy, where he controlled newspapers, magazines, and 3 major TV channels. Throughout his career, Berlusconi faced multiple criminal charges, including abuse of office, bribery, corruption, and paying for sex with an underage girl. Most of the charges ended in dismissals after Berlusconi's government passed laws shielding him from prosecution. But a tax fraud conviction in 2013 barred him from public office for 6 years. And in New York City, an unscripted Tony Awards took place Sunday evening as the Writers Guild of America strike continues. Host Ariana DuBose kicked off the ceremony by leafing through a blank script before launching into a dance number consisting of a wordless medley of Broadway hits. She went on to express solidarity with striking entertainment writers. History was made as 2 non-binary performers took home awards for the first time. J. Harrison Ghee won Best Actor in a Musical for Some Like It Hot, and emotional Alex Newell took to the stage after winning for their role in the musical Shucked.
Thank you for seeing me, Broadway. I should not be up here as a queer, non-binary, fat, black little baby from Massachusetts. And to anyone that thinks that they can't do it, I'm going to look you dead in your face that you can do anything you put your mind to.
These are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report.